empowering the mind, body, and soul of champions. It's really trying to provide a holistic program. If you want to be the best athlete, it's not good enough for you just to be the most skilled athlete. You also got to be one of the most physically strong and endurance athletes, but you also got to be one of the most intelligent volleyball players, and, you got to be rooted and grounded, like mentally, you got to know your identity, you have, confidence. You have to be well-rounded, and you have to be, or at least pursuing excellence in every area if you truly want to reach excellence.
Where we need to know about playing and coaching beach volleyball and, in some instances, indoor volleyball, which today we'll have an interesting conversation from a director who is doing both and has played and competed at a high level in both. For us, you're always welcome to visit our website, betteratbeach.com, where we have a number of ways for you to get better. We have online training programs for every skill where we can take you step by step through tutorials and drills so you can fix your passing, fix your setting, your arm swing mechanics, attacking and defense. And if you've ever asked yourself, am I really doing this right? We invite you to jump into one of our skill-specific courses where we help players erase bad habits, get more control of the game, and learn high-level strategy and flat-out win more matches. Our most popular online program is our 60-day max vertical jump program, and it's guaranteed to add inches to your vertical leap. If you want to add mobility, strength, speed, and power to your game, we have the answer. And we also provide online coaching and mentorship from real professional athletes and coaches. So it's perfect for people who want a coach to take them to the next level. Of course, we always run camps and clinics. So if you ever want to join us for a trip or training vacation, or you want us to come to your home city, just reach out. Email support@betteratbeach.com. Today on the podcast, I'm actually really excited because it's always fun when you get to bring a friend on the podcast, and somebody who, even though you're not with them all the time, you know that they're out in the world and you have like parallel paths, where you're both attacking similar goals and reaching people and helping people. So every, 4, 5, 6 months or so, I get a little update from our guest today, and I kind of see what he's up to, and it excites me. It inspires me. It motivates me because he's doing things that I want to do. And then sometimes I'm doing some things that he wants to do. And we always kind of pick at each other's brains. And I'm really excited to have him tell all of you what he's doing and how he's built a really successful community. So I want to introduce a little bit of him and everything that he is doing. He is the club director for Empowered Beach Juniors. Empowered Beach Juniors is the area's premier beach volleyball club. It's located at the Empowered Sports Club on Lima Road, and they have the area's only indoor sand courts where you can play sand all year round, no matter the weather. He started in 2010. And it was the first beach club in Indiana history to have an athlete recruited and receive a scholarship to play collegiate beach volleyball. Our guest today, Will Robbins, is also the area's only professional beach volleyball player to ever qualify for the country's top 2 professional beach volleyball tours, the AVP and the NVL. He played college at IPFW and then suffered what was believed to be a career-ending knee injury, but he made a monster comeback in 2006. By 2010, after an 8-year sabbatical from competition, countless hours in the gym, and refocusing his life, he accepted his first professional indoor contract and was on his way to fulfilling his dream. Along with competing professionally, William and his wife built a 68,000 square foot multi-sport facility, Empowered Sports Club, and the Empowered Volleyball community. And we're going to learn all about that today. So Will, man, this is going to be a good talk. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the introduction. Always good to see you and talk to you.
Yeah, man. So I know you're traveling. Just give me 1 second. I want to know what you did today. You're on the road. You're busy. You're running around. You're going to other countries, and you've got your own clubs going. So what'd you do today, man?
Oh, geez. Well, I just finished USA Indoor Nationals yesterday, and I was blessed. My 17s and my 16s, didn't didn't start off the season great and actually ended up going to nationals in the Patriot division, but both of them really, caught fire when it mattered and actually made it all the way to the national championship game. And my 16s, unfortunately, were lost in 3. My 17s ended up winning in 3. So it was amazing to be on center courts, literally across from each other, playing at the same times, hearing my teams being announced, obviously getting to coach one of them, but being able to look across to the other one, and finished up with that whirlwind yesterday, drove home, and then was up this morning and packing up to head to Canada. And so I'm currently in Windsor, Ontario. Just came up for a Can-Am invite event that we put together. I really got to meet some of the Canadian beach junior national team coaches when I was in Thailand in December, coaching our U21 boys beach teams, and really just hit it off. They really are cut from the same cloth that you and I are, and just really care about the kids and the development. And they've got On Point Beach Volleyball up here. They've got 5 different sites. Darren O'Neill is the club director and founder. And, just talking with him, sharing stories like you and I do about the club world, about development, the good, the bad, the ugly, and how we can try to, just better, our sport. And, after talking, we decided that we're going to do a little collaborative event. He brought a few kids down for a little tournament we did a little over a month or 2 ago, and then we just came up. But due to some of the vaccine requirements and a few other things going on with indoor nationals, we actually were only able to bring up 1 team this year. But it was a new event. It's going to be great. They've got a bunch of Canadian teams, so we're going to be doing some training sessions and then get to actually go and do some competition, and they're going to be able to compete. And we got some fun stuff to do to, kind of bring some of our girls together and their girls. So just a cool collaboration we're trying to do with some of the beach national team coaches from up here in Canada, and, just trying to build some relationships. They're 3 hours away right across from Detroit. So they're really close to actually Fort Wayne. And so, I'm in Canada for the first time, and we're about to do a little 3-day camp and clinic and play some volleyball.
So I think I want to ask kind of the obvious question, I guess maybe from the director or like juniors coaches side. I think there are a lot of directors and clubs developing in little silos in places where they do have to travel to go somewhere else. But then you also have that choice, the option of saying, well, no, we're going to compete against ourselves, right? Like we're going to train against ourselves and then we'll wait to compete at tournaments. So why are you making a choice to kind of host a dual training and competition meet as opposed to staying at home and training just against your guys and girls?
Well, I feel like, kind of like you, I'm a student of the game. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to learn new techniques, new verbal cues, just different ways to be able to teach the game and help it to be able to stick with our young athletes. So, I'm always looking for how everybody runs their programs. How do they coach? How do they, run their clubs? How do they coach their teams, their philosophies, offensive, defensive systems? So I'm always just trying to learn myself. And, I then kind of looked at the next stage of that is obviously the more I've learned over the years, obviously the better player I became and then the better coach I've become. And I really want to instill that mindset into our athletes that, we want to continue to learn as much as we can as players. So we're not just good physical athletes. We want to also be the most intelligent athletes on the court. And so, as you know, once you get to a certain level, everybody is pretty, for the most part, physically gifted and around the same. And obviously there's some freaks out there, but for the most part, everyone is pretty close to the same. And then it really comes down to just your intelligence, how quickly you can process information and, make the right choice, and really just your heart, your fight, your work ethic, those things. And so, I just really want, my athletes to be well-rounded and be able to have different opportunities to learn from different people, to be able to compete against, people outside of our area, our region. As you know, each region of the country, while we may all play the same sport, each region tends to have some different kind of focuses, variances in the way they play the game or what they emphasize. And so, it's just like we're a fundamental team on the indoor side where, we're running a lot of the routine plays and fast offenses, and it's a lot of explosive big swings. Well, then all of a sudden you play against some teams that are all tipping and rolling, and they're into the little more crafty. All of a sudden, if you don't practice that in your gym all the time, all of a sudden it really throws you for a loop, and it takes you maybe a set and a half to really, adjust to the way a team is playing. And so, I really want my athletes to be able to play a lot of different styles of beach, indoor. I just feel that it makes them just more well-rounded and ultimately prepares them for the highest levels of indoor or beach. So, I just want my kids to have a variety of coaching, but also a variety of competition so they can really round out just their education and development.
Now, are you going to be giving your kids over for some trainings or clinics to the other coaches and saying like, hey, they've got your court now, so go and learn from them?
Yeah, we're actually splitting it apart. Like I'll be doing a session on attacking. As you know, that was kind of my specialty. So I'll be doing the portion on attacking, and then all of their coaches will be doing different portions on, passing, defense, and whatnot. So our athletes will be learning from them, and they'll be leading the training sessions. And then I'll vice versa be leading the training session on attacking and training their athletes as well.
What would you say to somebody who's like would attack that and say, well, one coach has got their athletes on a course, steering the course. And don't you think that putting them in front of another coach or seeing it that way might steer them off the course that you had them on, or, redirect them in a negative way? Are you worried about that at all?
There is always that chance, that somebody may teach them something different, may derail them from the process, or, as you're trying to develop them. But, I am selective on who I do work with. I don't just work with just anybody. And so I am a little protective of our athletes, and I want to make sure that, we don't have to agree on everything, but fundamentally we've got to be pretty close to being on the same page. But then, as you know, from the basic foundation, then there's a lot of different kind of layers to the game. There's a lot of different ways, the old saying, to skin a cat type of thing. So I would rather my athletes hear 3 or 4 different ways to attack the same problem. And then I can talk them through, kind of why I prefer this one. I prefer this technique over this technique, and, feel that I have more ball control with the tomahawk versus, the different techniques you want to play a ball overhead, and so just talking through then the different variations. And sometimes, as you know, like depending on the situation, this variation might be the best, in this scenario, this is the best. But I feel like sometimes too many people in our sports world, they think it's my way or the highway. Either you teach it my way and this is the only way to do it. And, these people aren't teaching the game correctly, where I feel like we're all usually a lot closer aligned than what we think. And sometimes what we're teaching, if we sit down and talk, what you're saying and what I'm saying isn't necessarily wrong, but it's maybe, we're talking about different scenarios, different situations, different levels, high school versus college versus international, and what you do internationally, these kids aren't ready for it 12 years old. And so, where they are in the progression, this is, they need to be learning the fundamentals, and so passing, I like center line, but I understand as you go up, center line is tough. Someone serves you high in the chest, so you got to get it off, your center line. And, other people are big, passing off the hip, and that's a big debate. Center line or, outside the body or off the hip, And so, to me, you got to teach all variations. As you know, you got to pass balls everywhere from shoulder, really from shoulder to shoulder, and then teach everything above head, So to me, it's all in different scenarios. But from the fundamentals, I want my kids to learn how to move their feet to the ball. So I want to teach them center line, because too many times I feel like if you teach off the hip and, off center line, a lot of times kids end up being lazy and they don't move their feet. They just start swinging outside their body.
Caution. I'm always like, listen, hey, the first thing you have to learn is how to get your feet to the right position. So your feet have to be active. So don't just let it get outside. But once you have that ability, the physical ability to actually move where you want to move,
Right.
then we can start teaching some of the other stuff. But I think that passing and setting come from the feet. I guess the whole sport comes from the feet, really. I mean, we're having that discussion this weekend at the AVP. But yeah, having those fast feet for passers, I think it's everything.
Right.
Do you teach passing indoor and beach differently or the same?
As far as obviously location, we teach different location. You know, obviously we're trying to pass a little more straight off the inside leg to just a little more in the middle, obviously off the net, as opposed to indoor, high and tight, so they can jump set. But as far as its feet, you know, not necessarily. I mean, there's a big thing in our area about, you know, indoor, always right foot forward. You should always have your right foot forward with passing.
What?
You know, yeah. Yeah, you've got a lot of different little things. To me, it's,
what's the reason?
I had a coach try to explain it to me, something about if your right leg is forward, the ball coming across, it didn't even make sense. So to me, I've always, just like with beach, I want my outside leg forward. So my hips are around and I'm always playing balls into the court. So I tell my athletes, honestly, to me, I like it. It's really what you prefer. If somebody likes right leg forward all the time, but to me, I look at where the server is coming from. And that's going to sometimes adjust if I'm doing indoor and we're passing 3. I mean, on the beach, you're passing 2. I'm always my outside leg forward. So no matter when I'm passing, I like to be able to have my hips, everything finish into the court.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's interesting. There's like some things that I remember from indoor and like camps, like kind of the step hop to pass, like always do a step hop before you pass. And I was like, a lot of the things I was like, always. And then I always go back to, okay, fine. Give me that information. Let me look at it. And then all I do is I'll go to video, I'll go to the World Tour, and I'll go to NCAA championships, and I'll look at all that film, and I'll say, all right, let's watch everybody disprove me. You know, I hate watching video and saying, let me prove myself right. I try to take the mental side of, let me look at this video trying to prove this right, and then seeing how many times an elite player does or doesn't do exactly that feedback. And if I don't see the best players in the world doing it on a consistent basis, you know, there's always the anomalies, like, you know, Phil with his goofy foot and April's got a kind of a weird
people always want to use that too, like, oh, but look, he's goofy footed. Yeah, if you were his height and his athleticism, you could be goofy footed too.
Yeah, you look at like the broad spectrum, and then that's where I get my answers. And then, you know, I'll talk to guys like you. I'll talk to, you know, Dodd and Alzina and all the beach coaches for USA. I'm like, what do you think about this? When would it work? When wouldn't it work? But there's a lot of stuff that gets made up, or I think, especially like in the reffing side for beach, oversimplified, so that like somebody tries to help explain a rule to somebody who is new to the game, and so they simplify it for it, and then that rule just becomes something crazy, like the no hands together thing that we're still battling, or you can't set over the net. And, you know, I'm at like Pottstown Rumble. I was playing in the pro division, you know, and I set Shane. I wasn't facing the net. I accidentally overset him. It was obvious that I was trying to set him. And I'm sitting there explaining volleyball rules that is allowed, you know, to guys who have been playing at the open level for 10 years. I'm like, how is this still a discussion?
The hands together thing is the big thing. No, your hands got to be touching. Your hands have to be together. It's like, no, that is not the rule. Is there fingertip action, you know, on that? Yeah. So that is, but honestly, I think that's one of the issues with our sport is, you know, they changed the rules so much. And, you know, and especially on the indoor side, you know, it goes international, they change it, and then it goes to college, and it trickles down sometimes to high school, sometimes not, sometimes middle school. And so you have a lot of variations. And I think that transitions over into, you know, beach, grass, any of these open level, professional level, like what rules are we going by? You know, we're going to try these new rules. You know, the net's a net. Now it's not a net. It's just the top of the tape. Now it's the whole net again. And like, so a lot of that is because they keep changing the rules. I feel like more than any other sport, you know, not only can the spectators
you think they change it more than other sports? I
feel like
maybe rules change all the time, right? Like NFL, NBA, like they're constantly tweaking little rules. And I think we're just so in it that
Right.
were like, what, another rule change. But if you were so into basketball, you would see like all the rules change with the time clock and everything like that. In football, like, they changed the extra point distance. So
Right.
every
I'm
sport's
sure
kind
there
of
is some
getting changed.
tweaks.
We're just
Yeah.
obsessed with it,
Right. Right. Yeah. We just pay attention to every little one that they change. But I feel like it does cause confusion because I don't know about other sports, but I feel like because we don't have all of our affiliated or associations, USA is doing some stuff a little different than AAU, and each tour is doing something, maybe some different rules. Each open level tournament, kind of has some of their own different rules.
Every high school league plays like you can toss a serve and let it fall, or no, you can't. Like,
Yeah. So I think it's hard sometimes I've had professional athletes. I had some national team guys, come in and coach and trying to do club, trying to do high school. Like, what rules are we going by? In club, you fill out the lineup sheet different than you fill it out in high school,
Okay.
So it's like, I had guys like lost, and I'm like, this dude played on a national team. And he's, trying to figure out what rules are going by and like arguing with a high school ref. And it's like, yeah, you can't pursue in high school. There's no pursuit. And there's, different stuff where you just don't know what rules sometimes, that organization is going by. So it does cause some confusion.
Hey, give me your number one pet peeve that people teach or that you've seen teach on a big enough basis that you're just like, this is, aside from being like nice and political and saying like, and yeah, but we'll teach our athletes the other way. Like, what do you hate that somebody teaches? One from indoor and one from beach.
Oh, geez. I guess my pet peeve for younger athletes on the indoor side is we call it middle school volleyball, the people who don't teach the game, who are so focused on just winning that they teach the one ball over, just send it over at the lower level. And you see it even lower level beach tournaments with, younger kids where just keep sending it over on one. And eventually the other team's bad enough, they'll make a mistake, instead of trying to teach them to pass, set the ball, try to get a swing, try to use all three hits. But we have, unfortunately, a lot of, young coaches that are trying to make a name for themselves sometimes in like that middle school world, that instead of, really teaching these kids the fundamentals when they're starting out, they're just trying to win and make a name for themselves. So they're not teaching them the fundamentals and not teaching them how to play the game so they can be successful at the next level. They're just teaching them little cheap kind of, just keep sending it over, shoveling it to the corner, and just to try to win, which, as you know, there's a lot of little shortcuts you can do in the game that win when you're young, that'll never win when you're old, And
Right.
So for us, our big thing with the club is I don't mind losing at the younger ages. I would rather lose early because we're trying to teach them the right way and we're trying to teach them the skills that they're going to need to be successful at the next level. And, we'll sacrifice a few wins early on. And those clubs who you see winning national championships at 12, 13, 14s that, you don't hear about a lot of times at 16s through 18s.
Are there those clubs?
Kids they're everywhere.
Really?
Yeah, especially on the indoor side.
So they're good at coaching juniors, but they're not good at getting people into college and pro level or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. We have some teams. Yeah, it's all across the country, but you have teams. We're chasing national championships, flying all over the country. 12 years old, 13 years old, like driving these kids and just focusing on winning now. And these kids are getting burned out, overuse injuries. And in the end, they kind of stagnate. I think Kobe said it best. If you're always just focused on winning, you're always typically just going to play to your strength and you're not going to develop your whole game. But if you're focused on development, then you're always working on your weaknesses. Sometimes even when you're playing matches, hey, we're going to try some new things. We're going to try some stuff we've been working on in practice. Indoor, you're trying to run a faster offense. We're trying to run one balls. We're not just doing two balls because that's easy. No, I need you to find the timing and the tempo of a one ball, so we're going to try to do a faster offense at a pretty young age. But yeah, trying to teach them these things that they may struggle with because they're a little more complicated. But if you teach them at a young age and you then give them the time to develop and give them the opportunity to fail at it, then these kids continue to grow, develop, and teams that are beating us at 14, we end up crushing at 16 to 18s. And then, I got 24 kids just in my 2022 class going on to play in college, where other clubs, yeah, great. You won a lot when you're young, but you got 2 kids going to college, 5 kids going to college. Most of them are done and, over playing volleyball or burnout or just never developed the rest of their game. They were kind of one-dimensional.
It's tough because I don't think people, coaches, new coaches, young coaches, and definitely I don't think there are enough great club directors. I think like anybody, like business owners, you get overwhelmed with something and then it doesn't become your dream vision of it. It becomes you trying to keep up with the growth of it or with the demands of parents and players. And I had a U15 team that I was doing something similar to you said. I was like, listen, we're going to play this defense where we had one blocker. We put up one girl in the middle because my other girls were like 4'10" on the wings. And I go, we're going to start every practice with block footwork. We're going to do swing block footwork. We're going to do it every day. And I'm going to have you do it. But I'm telling you right now, we're not going to do it in the game. But you need this skill next year, the year after that, the year after that. So we're going to drive in these motor patterns right now, even though on Saturday, hey, after, 3 practices this week, on Saturday, we're not going to use it, but you need to be able to be ready for the next level.
Right. Yeah. And that's the same, with positions. And that'd probably be, kind of my other pet peeve, and that's beach and indoor is, when you make a kid one-dimensional, when, you start them at a young age and you lock them into just one position. And beach is a lot different because you got to be an all-around player, but you can still get locked into I'm just a blocker. Well, that's great. When you're young at 14, you're 5'10", okay, that's a decent sized blocker, for a girl. But now if you don't grow anymore, I hate to break it to you, you're not blocking at 5'10", on tour. And so it's time, you need to transition to a defender. But a lot of these kids, they've just been pigeonholed into, kind of, this is my position. These are the skill sets I've developed. And as you know, it's really bad on the indoor side is this kid gets stuck in the middle. All she knows how to do is block and hit. Yeah, and she tops out at, once again, 5'10". She's not going to play middle in college at 5'10" unless she just jumps out of the gym. Well, guess what? That kid now doesn't know how to pass, never served. Guess what? She can't transition now. It's too late at 17 to a pin and learn how to pass all of a sudden. So guess what? That kid washes out and doesn't end up playing in college and fulfilling her dream because she got kind of stuck playing middle because that's what that team needed to win right now. And, they don't focus on the overall development of the athlete. They just focus on what can you do to win me a little national championship or this tournament right now. And sometimes, I see these clubs just sacrificing kids' careers in an effort to promote their own coaching careers or their clubs and I get there's that fine balance because it is a business. So, you want to win some, you want to go in and have some of those prestigious awards, winning a national championship and some different
And that
things.
provides motivation, right? As well. There's a sense of pride that comes along with that and motivation.
Right.
So it can't just be about learning and everybody always loses.
Right.
Then nobody believes in the actual learning process.
Right. If you're never winning, is your training that great? If you're always losing, so it is a balance. But to me, I truly believe if you really focus on the development and the education, then winning should be a byproduct of that. If what you're teaching is good and you're actually developing the athletes, then eventually there should be a point where they're far enough along in the progression that they will start to have that success. And obviously, you knew me as a player. I'm as competitive as anybody. So I want to win just as bad as anybody. So we always try to balance that development versus, as you get, the process versus outcome type stuff.
Yeah.
And just try to find the balance where too many times I think people swing the pendulum too far towards just the outcome and just, winning at all costs. And, even if you lie, cheat, or steal, or if you're not cheating, you're not trying type of thing. And, and there's still the old school coaches, the Bobby Knight style, you got to be angry and you want to kill your opponent, you want to, and then you wonder why these little kids are just poor sports and they're terrible. And they're, you might win a couple extra games by making this kid a nasty little pit bull. But in the end, now they're a terrible human being. Nobody wants to play with them. They're a terrible teammate. Like, they're just nasty, bad attitude, and so I also think about long-term too, I want them to have the best volleyball career, go on and play in college, hopefully the pros, but what are they going to be the next 50 years of their life? Are they going to be a good human being and a productive member of our society, or the same nasty, cheating mentality that you taught them on the court, do they now take it to the business world and into their relationships? And, what kind of person are they now off the court? So that'd be my thing, is just, helping these kids reach their full potential and really making sure we focus on them and their development, even if it means sacrificing our egos at times, and even, our name and, reputation of, what's more important, us winning another championship or us sending another 10 kids to college? As you know, we don't need any more medals. We've got enough medals and trophies. I'm sure you've got a closet full somewhere collecting dust. You've probably thrown them away because they're fun for a while and I'm excited. But after that, it's a faded memory.
Yeah. I used to have them like all the player badges hung up somewhere, and I'm just like, I have no idea where they are. I would still want to go to the tournament and hang out with everybody, and it's great still being able to play at the level, but it's just like, all right, like, great. Right. If I had one player badge though, that thing would be, it would be hanging up somewhere. But at a certain point, it's just like, okay, next is, I guess, a gold medal might hang somewhere. But even, I went to Ryan Millar's house, and he had to like dig through to find his gold medal a little bit. It's just like, you forgot where it was.
And it's a different Olympiad. I mean, I know guys that are just passing it around. A couple guys have lost them, because they're just letting people wear them and hang out with them. So there's something to be enjoyed and everything. But as long as you don't sacrifice the development and everything else in an effort to try to win that. And as you know, I mean, a lot of athletes sacrifice everything, sacrifice relationships, their lives, and they don't have that work-life balance, and in the end, just like anything in life, too much work can hurt your personal relationships, too much focus on just the game. You could sacrifice a lot. I mean, it is a balance because you got to be committed and almost obsessed to be the best player you can be. But for your own mental health and everything else, you also have to have some balance and relationships and have some extracurricular activities you do outside of the sport.
Do you think that like the crazy elite champions, like the gold medalists, the Michael Phelps, people who have done it at the extreme high level, do they have a work-life balance? Did Michael Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, Tiger Woods, Michael Phelps, are these work-life balance, or were they completely and 100% obsessed?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they probably went through phases and maybe seasons where I think you've seen in each of their lives where they've probably been a little too obsessed, and you saw what happened in their personal lives with marriages and a lot of other things. So I think, I'm sure you have to be obsessed to a certain point to be able to really get your body to its absolute peak to really be able to perform at that level. So it does, as you know, it takes hours and hours every day of not just physical training, but the mental side and video and everything else. So, yeah, it is. I don't know. I'm not in Jordan. I wasn't in Jordan in them shoes. I would have to say they were probably always borderline obsessed and probably crossed the line at times. And it started to affect their relationships and other areas and probably had to reassess like a lot of us athletes do. And I'm sure you do as a business owner now. Like, there's times where I find myself working 120 hours a week, and like working till 4 a.m. And it's like, oh, shoot, I got to spend a little time with the wife, spend a little time with the family, and make sure that I'm not burning myself out. I have a little quiet time. And, I think there's phases and maybe seasons that I think we all, if we're serious about anything, we're going to have to sacrifice. My first 5 years of my business, I mean, I literally was working 120 hours a week and just went through one business after another. Yeah. And then people are like, oh, you're kind of thinking you're like an overnight success. And you're like, you don't understand the hours that I grinded and sacrificed. And yeah, I have a large facility now, but I went through 5 other businesses, growing each one, from the court in my yard, my beach court at the house, to training people out of my garage with sports performance, to, a small little studio that I rented, in a 2,000 square foot studio, then an Anytime Fitness. And then finally got into a big facility that I was just renting beach courts until I was able to buy my facility. That's awesome. So, it's just kind of a progression, but it takes, I'd say for probably the first 5 years to 7 years, I had to be obsessed. But at the same time, it did take a toll, on my relationship with my wife, and even spending time with family and friends and stuff. But I think if you have good family and friends and they understand your vision and your mission, and, it's something that they believe in and it's something that's positive, I think most are supportive. But there is times where I got to check myself, and, the work's still going to be there, Yeah. And so now I'm down to about I'm down to about 80 hours a week. I'm getting better. I just hired 3 more people, so I'm hoping to get it down to maybe 60, 65 hours here soon.
Nice. I want to get to that. I want to get to that a lot. Remind me to ask you about financing for a facility, because I'm sure a lot of people want to know about that. But I want to go back to when you're in practice, and I used to ask this to a bunch of the AVP guys. When you're in practice, should you put more focus on learning how to be a winner at all costs, or fix what's broken? There's some people that come from the school of thought, like at the pro level, at least, where, hey, whatever we have in our arsenal, we have to figure out that winning is the most important. So figuring out how to win becomes really important. Understanding the flow of the game. What changes did they make? What changes do I have to make right now? How do I counter that? That in itself, I think, is a skill. But then also, you have to have some focus on, if my best swing is hard cross, and I know that, and that's the only way that I could win this match in practice, so I know that that's how I should try to win, but I also have to develop a hard line. What should we do in practice? And is it different at the juniors, college, and pro level? Because you've played at all of them and you've coached at all those levels.
Yeah. Well, and back to kind of what I said, just to finish that is, as I say, development is the main focus until college and the pros. And that's when you're actually being paid to win. So college and the pros is a little different from juniors, because in juniors, whether it's beach or indoor, the families, the parents are paying for their kid to get better. They're paying for their kid to be developed. So that's where I really put the emphasis more on the development. While, yes, we're still trying to develop the mindset of a champion and, what it takes to win, but it's mainly teaching them the tools and really developing them to be able to be successful and have the skill sets it takes to be successful. But then I think it's kind of a slow transition as you get to high school and then the college, that it then shifts more towards, now the focus is winning. Now you're being paid with a scholarship to win, and then the pros, you're being paid with a contract to win. So now the most important is winning. And really by that point, you've developed, for the most part, a lot of the foundation and the fundamentals, where now it's a little more fine tuning, where I say the focus is a lot more winning. What do I need to do with winning, and really self-assessing? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How can I really play to my strengths, try to hide my weaknesses to try to win this match? But at the same time, as you know, like my game on the beach side, came a lot from the indoor. So I was just a lot of swinging and a lot of just bouncing balls. And I knew
jumping and thumping.
Yeah. It took me to a decent level, where I was, able to play overseas indoor, and I was able to qualify AVP. But at the same point, though, only having that, limited my ceiling. And so when I would train, a lot of times I knew I could bounce and I could beat all the guys that I'm training against, swinging and bouncing the ball. But I knew to beat the top guys and really make an impact on tour, I'm going to have to develop my finesse, my shots, and my vision and everything else. So I would, really try to focus on that in training and try to develop those weaknesses. But at the same time, when I got into the match, I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to qualify or I'm trying to win the tournament. So, yes, if I'm up, I'm going to work on some of my shots. I'm going to try to work on my finesse, but it comes down to crunch time. I got to go to the bread and butter. I'm swinging high and hard. And, so I think it's maybe, I don't know if that was a more complicated answer, but I think it maybe depends on where you are in your career. I think it maybe starts out a lot more focused on just the development, working through weaknesses and the fundamentals, a little less on just winning, but you're teaching the winning mindset, work ethic, mental toughness, how to be able to face adversity and bounce back and overcome type of things. But then as you start to grow and develop, I think the transition then comes to, hey, the fundamentals now. Yes, you need more reps to be a little more consistent, but that'll come in time. Now we're going to start to really focus on how can I win now and strategically use the gifts and talents I have, the strengths and weaknesses to win now. And I think that's when it really shifts, probably after juniors or towards, 16s to 18s. In juniors gets pretty competitive, and now you're trying to win and you're trying to get recruited and stuff like that. So it's slowly, I think, transitions around 16 to 18s where it's a lot more winning and you figure out how to win at all costs in college.
Well, let's say that I'm one of your former juniors players, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in college and I'm a freshman or a sophomore, and I know that there's like this skill set that I need to develop, but I also know that in practice, my coach is running a cauldron system where it's based only on who wins in practice, and that's who starts and who gets their opportunity. So how do I become a more well-rounded player when at training winning is only what matters? And I think because I got to tie it back into most of our listeners who are adult players, right? They want everybody in their community to see that they're beating certain players so that they're going to get picked up.
Right.
By a higher level. Remember the first few years coming out to California training on the AVP, and you're like, I took a set from Theo in practice, and and meanwhile, like he just lifted 300 pounds the day before, and like they've got their own training protocol and they're working on something completely new. So it matters nothing who you beat in practice, but you think it does. So what do you give to that person in college or that person who's on that adult court that is saying, like, I know people are watching, I know they're paying attention to wins, but I also know that I need to develop this skill? How do they balance that?
Yeah. I mean, for me, sometimes, you just got to kind of split apart and make sure you're doing something extra. If it's a college kid, I tell them, when you're at practice, you're trying to win the drill. You're trying to do whatever your coach needs you to do. And if that's how they're judging who gets play time, then really in practice, you got to play to your strengths. You got to play to win. You got to do what it takes. But then what I would say is then make sure either before practice or after practice, you're sticking around, you're getting extra reps, you're going above and beyond, putting in extra time to be able to work on that and develop it. As you know, it's like sometimes when you're working with somebody who comes to you with bad form on hitting mechanics or something. Well, if they're in the middle of season, it's really tough to say, hey, next time you go to hit, you need to really work on getting lower and loaded on your jump. And, you can't think about that when you're trying to think about where's the set going, how fast,
you always give that caveat. The caveat's always like, listen, if you needed to win a championship tomorrow, don't do this. But if your championship's in 6 months from now, we got some time to work on it,
Right. And as you know, sometimes, I do some stuff with like the Vertimax. I like the Vertimax because it gives you some resistance.
What a Vertimax is?
So, Vertimax is just basically a jump platform with resistance bands that you can get resistance for the upward arm swing. So you either have hand straps, you're holding on to handles. So you have bungees going down. So you're getting resistance for the upward arm swing, but you also have a belt on with resistance bands going down from the weight belt on your hips down to the platform. So
it's you're rubber bands just trying to pull you down, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's an 8-foot platform with a really complicated pulley system underneath the platform that's like 60 feet of bungee. So it's not like the old Russian jumper, where it's just like a short little bungee. This is like a 60-foot bungee through pulleys. So it's even resistance throughout and everything. So I like it because the kids, we can have them really focus on their jump mechanics. And so they're getting some resistance training, but it's a lot of repetitive, just perfect jump mechanics over and over again. And to me, that's where a lot of times I can work on a kid's jump mechanics when you break it apart and they're just working on that jumping. And then I tell them, when you're in the middle of a game, we're in the middle of the season, don't try to think too much about your jump mechanics. continue to do these reps, outside of practice. And slowly you'll see, as you're doing hundreds and hundreds of these perfect reps, you'll start to come out more and more when you're playing naturally without you having to think a lot about it. Now, if you're in practice and it's slow and controlled and you're just doing hitting lines and warm-ups, then you can think about your jump mechanics, your arm swing, all of that stuff. But as you know, like when you're in a big game and it's a pressure moment at 2020, you're not thinking, hey, let me get a little lower and try to drive through my hips a little more to try to jump. You got to think, crap, what's the wind doing? What's been working? You got so many other things going on. That's not really the time to think about the development side. Now, if it's an easy game, it's pool play or early on, you're playing a low-seeded person, I'm all for like using some of those games to really work through some stuff, that
we've done that in some open tournaments. You get that, that first team and you're like, this is going to be a win. But instead of us sleeping through it, instead of you relaxing through it, which I made that mistake in a lot of early tournaments, I was like, we're going to wipe the floor with them. And then you have to expend so much more energy just because like you let them in the game. And then you spend 45 minutes developing bad habits. So now I've changed that. Like if I know that we're going to wipe somebody, but if you're going to beat them, I beat one team with only cut shots. I was like, hey, Logan, we're going to hit nothing but our best cut shots. We're going to get 42 reps of cut shots right now. And then you turn that into a little bit of practice. I like you're shaping that. Like if it's easy, if you have the opportunity to, then you try to make that change. And when you get into the emergency situation or you need that point, then just, let it ride, be in that moment.
Yeah. If it's easy, that's where you can kind of work on some stuff. I'm right with you. I talk to my athletes a lot is too many times, if you come into a match overconfident, we got this, this is an easy game. You start off too slow, you give the other team some momentum and sometimes you almost give them too much momentum and it's almost impossible to catch back up and try to get into a rhythm or warm up. So I learned that as well. And so I try to teach that to my athletes that, hey, don't underestimate anybody. But for two, if this is going to be an easier match, then let's really work on some stuff that we've been struggling with or some new sets we've been working on, maybe faster tempo, especially beach. Let's start running around behind and, let's try to work on some stuff that we haven't maybe been that consistent with. And yeah, for me, if I had an easier match, I knew that once again, I could swing hard, but I needed to develop my finesse game and my shots. And so there'd be a lot of those matches, same thing. I'd just come in and, all right, I'm just going to shoot all shots this match and just really work on challenging myself to, hit sharper and sharper shots and really more and more deceitful shots. So, yeah, I'm with you. And then that to me, especially with young athletes, now you continue to, get them focused on development. And now they're actually learning something from that match where a lot of times if it's just a blowout, I'll coach it, hey, let's screw around. Let's mix up, positions, mix up what we're doing. And now you basically just wasted a match. You wasted reps and you got no better.
Probably worse.
You probably got worse because, you start screwing around, learning bad habits and just teaching yourself how to play lazy. So, I'm with you. I try to challenge ourselves in every match. And if it's easy, work on some of those weaknesses that you've been struggling with.
Hey, you mentioned
for the higher level.
So I know you're a performance machine, we'll say. I imagine from your history, and I don't have the stats on it, that you've got a few certifications in sports performance and training, right? Mm-hmm. So in terms of jump mechanics, and that's like the number one topic for all of our audience, if we put how to jump higher on something, it gets double the clicks, even though it's like, dude, you need to pass first. I don't care how
doesn't matter if you jump higher.
If you can't set or pass, you're useless to me. So like I stop caring about jumping higher when like you can't even see the defense on the other side. Anyway, what's the one cue or thing that you need to fix with jump mechanics the most when players come to you?
I feel like a lot of our young athletes don't use their arms at all. So you see like the butterfly sometimes, like instead of, long arms and really driving. I would say arms is probably one. I see probably
what's the right way to do arms, if you could explain it for anybody listening? And remember, some people might be in their car right now, so you got
so I got to give a visual. I can show you.
It's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen different research. Some say as much as 13%. Some say as much as 20% of your vertical comes from that upward arm swing. So, we always just talk about long, straight arms. You want to swing them all the way back and swing them all the way up to really generate all that momentum and lift, so that all that momentum that you generate with that upward arm swing can help, drive, obviously, as you incorporate the hips and drive through with the legs, that, if you finish up with that momentum, it's going to naturally carry you higher. So getting our kids to get low and loaded and really swing in long arms, from obviously back behind your body somewhere, based on your flexibility, maybe almost at a 90-degree angle to your shoulders, to swing all the way up above your head and then into the bow pose or whatever you want to call it when you draw your hitting arm back. But I think getting kids to use their arms, where a lot of kids just kind of run up to the ball and just jump and swing and don't use their arms at all, or they just use a modified, like a little butterfly. There was somebody years ago teaching that in our area. We're telling people to swing their arms like around like a butterfly, and that was
like they're a wizard or something.
Yeah, but it's just like short arms naturally.
Music over here.
Yeah, I was just like, that just doesn't even make sense in my mind, or how you could even explain it. That would be better. But
so that elbow bend, you see a lot, like people hitching their elbows a little bit, and it doesn't quite get that same velocity or force into the ground.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Short arms, bent arms. I call them my little T-Rex arms, you see kids with. So yeah, getting them to have long extended arms and really swinging those long arms and generating all that momentum to help lift them up. That would be one thing. Some of it is just their hip hinge, that angle, trying to get them lower, where you see a lot of kids are just really upright and not really, getting a good, I don't know what you teach. We typically say about a 90-degree angle from your hips to your upper body of trying to get lower. Some go off the ground.
You measure like your knee, your thigh, and then up to your shoulders, there would be like a 90-degree bend. But then you have to prevent people from folding forward to get that instead of sitting, right? Like I think a lot of people, when they see, or you tell them to throw their arms back, they naturally drop their chest forward.
Forward,
like, yeah. Well, no. Like we still want to sit and throw yourself back with your chest up. So you like that?
We talk about proud chest. Yeah, and that's where we talk about proud chest. So when your arms are back, you still have the proud chest. You can still see the ball. Where I'm with you. Some just as soon as you see, as you say, bring your upper body lower, they just bend straight over. But it's getting them to where sit back into it a little bit more, where they still are with that proud chest. And
so then that knee angle, does that become 90 degrees as soon as the hip angle becomes 90 degrees? Because the body has to counter for it, right?
Right.
So like probably knees are somewhere about 90 degrees and that hip angle dropping there is 90 degrees. I see a lot of hoppers as well, people who jump from height. And you need the ability to jump from like that almost quarter squat. You have to be able to do that, but it's definitely not optimal because you're not even using your glutes at that point. You're just like, it's all calves and toes.
You're right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, trying to, obviously without compromising your technique, and everybody's a little different, depending on, how tight their hips are, their calf, Achilles, all that stuff. And honestly, I've been a little removed just because I partnered with a hospital. So I have a hospital that has a whole sports medicine division. Wow. That they have their whole strength staff now trains all of my athletes. So I really haven't done any sports performance in probably 5 or 6 years, just because they lease 13,000 square feet from me. So they have a physical therapy clinic on the first floor. And then on the second floor, they have a full strength staff that's phenomenal. So they train all of my athletes. And so they basically, all of my athletes rotate from court up to the weight room and do performance as part of their program. So every practice, sports performance is just a part of their practice. They finish in the weight room either the last half hour, or we have a group that goes, basically we have an hour on court and then 4 teams go to the weight room for a half hour while 4 teams are still on court, and then they flip. So
it's 30 minutes in the weight room, and how much time practicing?
Hour and a half.
So that's wow. So you're taking that 2 hours and you're saying that some of the most important, it's important enough to make sure that they train and get the strength training using those 2 hours. I think most coaches, high school coaches, club coaches would say like, no way. Like we can't even get into rotations or talk about an on-to offense in beach. And now you want to take these kids into the weight room.
Right.
How do you measure that? Like if I were that person, if I were sticky and I was like, no, I can't take them into the weight room, or I don't have a weight room to strengthen my kids in.
Right.
Do you have an answer for that?
Well, you don't always have to have a full weight room. Yeah, no, it's nice. But as you know, you can do a lot of stuff, body weight with resistance bands. I think sports performance has progressed quite a bit over the years where it's, we're not trying to lift a house anymore. We're not trying to deadlift 5,000 pounds and stuff. I mean, yes, there is a time and a place for heavier weights, as you know, but I think you can figure out based on what you have, whether it's little to nothing or it's a world-class sports facility, to put a good program together. For us, we've made it important, but I want to make sure like our sports performance program really focuses first and foremost on the stability and mobility first, so that our athletes are actually moving well and, in full range of motion, and try to do injury prevention. So we're doing full functional movement screens with the athletes and making sure that there's not any weaknesses and balances. So we're really trying to be proactive with our training where, you talked about it before, I can make you jump higher. But yes, if you can't pass, if you can't do these other things, you're still not going to be successful. But it's also, if you don't have good jump mechanics, if you're, letting balls get over your left shoulder. And so every time you're leaning and naturally your body, like you mentioned earlier, wants to balance out. So what do? You kick your leg out. Well, now you land on one leg every single time you land. Well, what good does it make? If I make you jump higher, all I'm doing is putting you at higher and higher risk to blow out your ACL. Because now you're jumping higher. I never fixed your hitting mechanics and some of these different things. So for us, I always want to make sure that, all of our athletes have a good solid foundation of not just skills, but, of just basic movement patterns of, each of their joints being able to have full range of motion. We don't have any weaknesses, deficiencies, imbalances, whatever. But then after they go through the stability and mobility is when we get into the strength and the power, and they really progress them. So like the hospital does a good job of really using the latest research. They really want to progress these kids in a safe way, and really they're focused on injury prevention. And so I think because we're doing it intelligently and we're able to explain to parents how, we're going to help prolong your athlete's career, not just get them more vertical and hitting harder and these different things. We're trying to make them a strong, kind of bulletproof athlete who isn't constantly having aches and pains. And
people don't realize that. Like I do little bits of real estate, and when you have a rental property, they say that the number one financial suck for a rental property is vacancy. Is when you don't have a paying renter in there. That's like the nightmare. And that's why you want to have good tenants who are staying and have a reason to stay in that neighborhood, in that area, so that they can be there for a long time, because otherwise you're making zero, and then when they move out, then you have to clean everything. You have to redo everything so it looks nice for the next person. So then you're doubling, tripling your expenses along with zero income. And I think now, like hearing you say it out loud, that's 100% the exact same for athletes. The biggest career suck is being out, being injured, because you can't work on anything. If you bust your ankle, you bust your knee, of course, yes, you can get stronger. And one of the most important things that people skip when they're hurt is go to film. Like look at videos, learn from somewhere. People talk about our online courses like, well, I'm hurt right now, so like I don't think it's a good time for me to take the online course. I go, you have no other option to get better right now.
Right.
Like this is the most important time. But having that injury prevention protocol and a strength increasing protocol, that will give you so many more years and so much higher potential as a player in your career, because you're not going to lose 2 months to an injury.
Right.
Imagine losing 2 months. Oof, it's brutal.
Yeah. Well, especially as a young athlete. I mean, now, just, beach is growing, indoor volleyball is growing. I mean, volleyball is just really, growing in our country. And so there's more and more high level athletes. And, You try to tell a young athlete, you might be in the recruiting process, but you blow your knee out, you tear your shoulder. Like, I know a lot of athletes, college coaches just stop recruiting them. Not too many colleges are going to take a chance on an athlete, who just blew her ACL or just tore her, rotator cuff or something. Mm-hmm. And so, it could be the end of your actual career, let alone constantly having these setbacks that keep putting you further and further behind from a development situation. So, to me, that's, the same way you train the skills, you got to train the physical body. And as we're starting to learn just throughout sports, you also got to train the mind. And so I think it's back to kind of what we've tried to do is, empowering the mind, body, and soul of champions. It's really trying to provide a holistic program because, as you've known, if you want to be the best athlete, it's not good enough for you just to be the most skilled athlete. You also got to be one of the most physically strong and endurance athletes, but you also got to be one of the most intelligent volleyball players, and, you got to be rooted and grounded, like mentally, you got to know your identity, you have, confidence, have security that one or two blocks isn't going to shake you and isn't going to frazzle you and you freak out. Now I just got blocked. Oh my God, what do I do? He's so big. And, and you start just making just uncommon errors. And so, I think to be truly successful in life, but also in sport, you have to be well-rounded and you have to be, or at least pursuing excellence in every area if you truly want to reach excellence. Because as you know, there's a lot of great physical studs that have no skills, or not good enough skills to win, or got all the skills in the world. But the guy's lazy, never hits the weight room, he's great first couple of matches, but then he's exhausted and he's cramping up and, he's worthless, towards the end of the tournament. Or just, a little undersized. You just never, developed a big enough vertical to really elevate and do, much. And, you're limited on your angles. Yeah. So, I think it's, obviously, maybe at different points in kids' careers, obviously fundamentals are one of the most important, but so is learning some of the basic movement patterns and jumping and landing safely.
And throwing, throwing and swinging. I had somebody comment on my, I showed one highlight of a cross-body swing, and somebody commented on my Instagram today, and she was like, cross-body swing, that's what got me a surgery, doing all those. I go, a cross-body swing did not get you a surgery.
Your improper crossbody swing, maybe.
Exactly. Like, you could do it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And I know coaches who have been doing it for, 30 years and never have a problem if you have the right mobility, the right things are activating, and you have a good sequence there. Right. Which little shout out to our own program. I'll take a minute to market it, guys. If you want to fix your arm swing, we have a program for that. It's called Fix Your Arm Swing in 21 Days. I'll throw it up on the screen, but betteratbeach.com/fix your volleyball arm swing. betteratbeach.com/fix your volleyball arm swing. We go through a strength protocol. We go through a throwing protocol to teach people, because in the beginning, Brandon, when he started coaching adults, he was like, everybody here's thrown a football in their life and blah, blah. And I was like,
have they?
Actually,
maybe years ago they used to, but
yeah. And there's tons of people, I get people that volleyball might've been their first ever ball sport, and it might've been when they're 30. So they don't have any of these things that, when you're a kid and you have a coach looking at you constantly. That's the advantage of a kid, is that it's almost difficult now, which is kind of negative, kind of positive, but you have somebody looking at you, volunteering to correct you for the first however many years of your life. And that's why these kids can be at 16 better than a 30-year-old, by far, because they had the first 8 years of their sport, somebody looking at them, correcting. When a 30-year-old starts and they go to 38 and they don't hire a coach, they don't have somebody watching. Sure, they've been playing the same amount of time, but they have gotten literally infinitely less feedback. Right. So they can't even learn it. And they're just trying to you get one tip from the local open player and you're like, okay, I can do that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're just kind of figuring it out as they go and taking good and bad advice from every player on the beach.
And bad advice. Yeah.
This guy told me to do it that way. Well, good. If you want to play like that guy, then listen to that guy. But if you actually want to win and do it correctly, do it like the rest of these guys that are actually playing professionally.
What's the worst beach volleyball advice you ever got, or something that like you thought was good, but then you realized years later was like, oh, damn it, I can't believe I listened to that?
Oh, geez. The worst advice. I don't know that oh, man. I'm going to have to think about that when I come back. Because honestly, I have been blessed where, you know, my mother played, my older sister played, and then pretty early on, I was able to get into a high level. You know, Muncie on the indoor side is one of the top indoor clubs. You know, they're an hour and a half from us. And so I was able to go down there and play and be taught by some really high level people. And then, you know, being at IPFW with Coach Ball, you know, being a Hall of Fame coach and his son Olympian.
Yeah.
I feel like we had a lot of good coaches. You know,
but you got into beach late, right?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up actually playing a lot of beach, but never really getting a lot of good beach instruction. So, I mean, I think I played my first tournament at like 11 because we used to go into Michigan and up to Chicago. It was only 3 hours away. So every summer, you know, I'd play on Saturday with my older sister's boyfriend in the men's, and then I'd play with my mom in co-ed on Sunday because back then they didn't have a bunch of juniors tournaments. So you just had to play low-level co-ed tournaments and, you know, men's tournaments. But, yeah, I would say maybe with beach there is just, you know, I didn't get a lot of fundamental beach training when I was young. So little stuff that I just didn't know. You know, I still remember playing Adrian and Steve Grotowski back in the day when they were a team. And, you know, I never knew to serve and come in, if I'm the server, come into middle back, you know, kind of in that, you know, USA calls it that point of intersection. So I'm just serving from like the left sideline and I'm just bombing my jump serve. And Adrian, I'm just walking in on the left sideline coming in, and Adrian's just going up, looking at me, shooting the ball over into the other, you know, over into zone one. And then I'm like, I'm going to bomb my serve and I'm going to run in. And I'm running in and he's shooting the ball the other corner. Like, just little stuff like, but I didn't realize until I started having some of the older guys and teaching me kind of some of the systems and stuff that, all right, let me serve and then come in and kind of balance the court, you know, and be kind of in the middle and then wait to shift or anything. And so, and I think I can't pinpoint one bad thing, but there was just a lot of stuff that I just kind of learned just playing that I didn't realize until I actually got good coaching that I was doing it wrong, that there was a better, more efficient way. But
it's always how it goes, you know, you get that third eye and you're just like, oh, at the camps and clinics, I go, you guys are here paying money so that we can find things that are not going well. I go, you didn't come and pay, you know, $200 for a clinic so that we could tell you how good you are.
Right.
Like, right. If you want that, you can hire somebody to like tell you you're handsome for 2 hours, you know, right. But you're here and you're hoping any player should be begging and hoping for a coach that is like trying to point out their little flaws that might make them better. You know, not somebody who's going to criticize and attack you as a coach. That's terrible. But somebody who's going to find and hunt down the things that you don't see. And then even when high level players do it, we have this like confirmation bias, right? Where you look at yourself playing film in order and your mindset is trying to prove yourself right. You know, you lose a tournament and you're like, let me watch film and see how many times my partner made an error.
Right.
And it's like, see, he's doing that wrong, you know, but that's only from your thoughts. And that's why a coach, somebody else, and really, if you don't have that other coach, like having a great partner relationship and open communication where you can be honest about what they're doing and what they're not, and not fear that they're going to drop you or hate you.
Right.
But that having somebody else look at your game and say, this is what you're doing that you don't know is wrong. Right. And that's the scariest stuff, when we don't know something's wrong and we keep on delivering on the improper way or something that's going to like hurt our game, whether it's in the weight room, whether it's mentally or on the court.
No, 100%. I mean, I truly believe everybody, you know, needs to have a coach, just having a second set of eyes, because you're 100% right. We obviously have our habits. We have, you know, the movement patterns that we've trained and developed over the years. And, you know, we can watch film and hopefully we catch a lot of stuff and hopefully you're honest with yourselves. But there's just some stuff that you just don't catch, like a coach on the sideline, really analyzing and watching. And I think having, whether it's an actual official coach or just having, players that you're playing with or against that are honest and that you trust enough and have enough of a relationship that you can have those open conversations. Like, did you see me move early? Like, man, you're carving me up. Like, what am I doing? Like, yeah, I see you. You're taking off early every single time, so, just getting honest feedback and maybe talking to, your friends in training or at least hopefully you have people that you're training with that you trust and you can have that open conversation. I know sometimes the training partners is, hey, I'm trying to beat you. I'm seeing you this weekend. I'm not going to help you beat me and get any better.
Jake Gibb did that to me when I was training against him. He was like, I had so much respect for him. I was like, he got a block. I was like, did you see me going for that? And he was like, I'll tell you when I'm retired. Like, and
awesome.
like that was it. And I was like, he was the first one that like wouldn't have that discussion. He's like,
right.
You're going to try to beat me next weekend.
Like, why would I tell you? I'm not going to give you all the secrets.
Yeah.
Like that. You can respect that though.
Hell yeah. Cool. Hey, Will, we got to wrap this up, but I want to know, well, first of all, I want you to just brag about Empowered Sports and what it does and why you built it. And then after that, just tell us how we can reach you, how we can find you, or how other clubs can come and learn from you, learn how to build a facility, which I might have you on my other podcast to talk about facility building and getting that stuff done. But tell us about Empowered Sports, Empowered Volleyball, and how people can reach out to
you. Yeah. It just had a playing career, and before that, I was pretty wild when I was young, got in a little bit of trouble. And so part of what I do now is mentoring kids too. And so I use sports as also an avenue to be able to kind of teach life skills to help kids be more successful and not, make the same mistakes I did. And, I got into the drinking and the drugs and the partying in college and got into a lot of trouble and lost my volleyball career for a while. And so a lot of what we do at Empowered is I want to be a one-stop shop, and I want to be able to provide anything and everything that a young athlete would need to be successful and fulfill whatever their dream is, whether it's just make the high school team, whether it's to go play in college, or whether it's to go play professionally. We've really, we bought the place. It was 68,000 square feet. It was actually a tennis club. And then I've since added another 21,000 square feet with indoor beach facility. So I've got 5 indoor beach courts with a full bar and mezzanine. And then
is that where you teach the kids not to drink?
Yeah. Hey, we got to have that conversation too. If you don't have that conversation, they're going to learn it from somebody. We discuss moderation and knowing when. We really, on the indoor side, we've got 4 hard courts. I've got a big mezzanine that overlooks the hard courts. And then on the other side, I actually have a turf field. So I've got football, soccer, baseball, batting cages on one side, and then hard courts on the other. And then you go through a hallway and a door and you go into our beach facility. And so up in the mezzanine that overlooks the hard courts and the turf, I have another bar up there, and then it's kind of a sports bar. So I've got TVs, couches, fireplace, foosball, air hockey.
Sounds like heaven.
Yeah. It's really everything that we wanted as young athletes growing up. I've really tried to build. I want it to be kind of a community center. Like we grew up going to the YMCA, playing pickup basketball every day, doing whatever we could, playing in the little rec center. So I wanted it to be, a place that kids could hang out, be kind of a community center, but also be a high-level training facility where I've partnered with the hospital. They have their full strength staff. They got their nutritionist that meets with my athletes once a month. Their physical therapists that are there. They also have an athletic trainer. They basically treat us like a college. So we have an athletic trainer at our practices. So if somebody gets hurt, I don't even deal with issues anymore. The old school, like, hey, can you still bend it? It's not broke. Get back out there. Like now, I don't even care if it's a hang now. If a kid comes to me like, my finger hurts, but go see the trainer. I don't want a lawsuit. I don't want any issues. If it hurts, go talk to the professional. And so we really have tried to think through anything and everything an athlete would need to reach their full potential. But also be able to provide kind of a safe environment, a safe home that families know, like I can drop my kid off and she can be here for the next 2 to 3 hours. Or during the summer, you know, we'll have a beach program followed up by an indoor program afterwards. So parents will drop their kids off for 3-4 hours, you know, where they'll go from the beach training and then come inside. You know, I've got a smoothie bar in there too, so they can get a healthy little smoothie and then, you know, go and do the indoor program. And really, we also, all of our club kids, beach or indoor, also get a membership to the facility. Because I want my kids to be gym rats, you know, and unfortunately in volleyball, you know, unless your parents, you know, are coaches, you don't have typically access to a nice indoor gym. And then most of the beach courts, unfortunately, in the Midwest, the beach courts
never near a weight room. So you got two separate trips, right? Like you got to go to the beach and then you spend an hour driving. You got to go to the gym. And it's like your whole day is gone.
Exactly. And if you have anything local, it's typically terrible sand, terrible net systems. You know, it's recreational courts built for beer leagues or something like that. It's not courts you want to train on, good deep sand to train in. So, yeah, it's, you know, I wanted to be able to provide that with our facility where anytime it's open, the courts are open, our kids have a membership, they can come in, they can get reps, they can use our serving machine, they can use our AccuSpike, Vertimaxes, whatever equipment, they can come and just get reps, you know. So it's nothing makes me happier than coming in on like an off day, say it's a Saturday, we don't have anything going on, and I see this little girl out there with her parents, you know, and parents are serving her balls or tossing for her while she's hitting, or her little brother's out there, you know, peppering with her or something. Like I just want to provide an atmosphere in a facility that, you know, kids can just get reps whenever they want. You know, their families can come in with them, but also they
got a place they can go, right? Like, I had a pretty solid family, and I know that I had a bunch of friends that didn't. And my family always just let people in. There was an open door. And when you got a facility in a community like yours, where somebody just like, I have nowhere to go, but at least I can go here. Yeah. You know, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no, we're actually even taking a step further. We just hired 4 new directors, and one of them is going to be our director of mental health. She's a college coach and also got a bachelor's, master's, and everything in psychology, and is phenomenal just with our young athletes. She's coached for us. She's done some of our character building. But yeah, we're looking going even further into the mental development side, and especially a lot of these young athletes, as you know, they're facing more and more younger and younger ages. And so we're getting these young athletes that are just mentally broken and fragile, and they're stud athletes physically, but mentally they're just so insecure. They lack so much confidence. And, you know, we really got to learn how to build them up. And unfortunately, some are a little spoiled and entitled and don't know how to work hard and those things. So then we got to teach them to learn how to, teach them how to push themselves until they learn how to push themselves.
Discomfort is a real thing. Yeah.
We're looking at even, I feel like that's going to be the next big frontier in youth sports is the mental side. And talking to some different college coaches, one buddy the other day was like, I foresee one day there being a sports psychologist for every single team. Where right now at their university, there's one sports psychologist for all the teams.
Right. That's crazy.
We're just always trying to figure out what program could we implement, what type of professional could we bring in to either speak to our kids or to be able to provide another level of training that would help elevate our athletes' games, and just try to figure out how we can just help our athletes reach their full potential, like I said earlier, in every area of their life. And to me, if you're chasing excellence in every area and you're reaching your full potential in every area, you're going to reach your full potential in sports and life and relationships and one day in your career or whatever it is. We're just trying to really lay the ground, rules and kind of the foundation, I guess, for success. And we're just using volleyball as our main sport. And I own all of that program, the indoor and the beach, but like the baseball, rugby, soccer, all that stuff, I rent out space to a few other organizations that are like-minded. And then the hospital with their sports medicine, they do a lot of arm care for pitchers. And
for everybody who's trying to get a better look at that, what website can we all go to and see the heaven that you've built there?
So empoweredsportsclub.com is the facility, and then empoweredvolleyball.com That is my volleyball website. But you can go to empowersportsclub.com. You can see the whole facility. You can also get to our club page. So yeah, we've had our beach club now 11 years, and then we just finished our 8th year with our beach club. And so yeah, the facility, we bought it, took it over in December of 13, but officially finished the sale and everything. What was it? June of 2014. So about 8 years, a little over 8 years, we've really, we've got now 37 teams. I've got a second site, another satellite. So I've got 29 in-house teams and 8 at a satellite for indoor. And then beach, all of my indoor kids all do beach one day a week as a part of their program. Because I truly believe to be the best indoor player, you still need to use the beach and everything that you can learn and glean from the beach game to really elevate your indoor game. And I think vice versa too. I think sometimes beach players just focus on beach, but if you have a little bit of that power and explosiveness from the indoor side and a lot of the
fear of block, right? Just you know what? I don't care how many people are in front of me. I'm going to rip.
Yeah. And so if you can combine some of the best of both surfaces, I truly believe that, it'll make you the best at either one of them. And I mean, I think that's why, the Kerry Walshes, the Karsh Karais, a lot of those big names, they were successful at both. And I think ultimately that's what made them arguably some of the best players to ever play the game, because they were really good at both. And I think used both surfaces throughout their career for training and whatnot. Power Sports Club is the facility, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Yeah, we're up to 90,000 square feet. We've got another satellite in Warsaw, Indiana, about an hour away. I'm just finalizing. I got a big management deal I'm working on, bringing in a couple new big partners, another big facility. I've got a couple more lined up down the road. So really, we're even branching outside of our facility and outside of even just volleyball and looking at, with other facilities in our management group, really trying to take what we build at Empowered and that one-stop shop and holistic model. And, these organizations are wanting me to go and kind of take that model, into basketball, into baseball, into football, into soccer, where they can add in, we've got full recruiting, a whole platform that we use on top of, the mental side, on top of, we do character building, leadership development, just trying to really make these kids not just the best at their sport, but also, the best and most successful in life for the next 50 years. Or, as if you're trying to be a professional in volleyball, you better be pretty intelligent at business and be good at marketing and be a good entrepreneur if you really want to actually make some money and be able to provide for a family. So
with you there.
So we really just try to think of everything that, a young athlete would need to be successful on and off the court. And, we've just been blessed with some huge partnerships and some great community support from businesses and some influential people. And then obviously our IPFW family, most of us all played at Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, which is now Purdue, Fort Wayne, but got a lot of high level alumni that have played professionally and on the national team, that really help, support and grow our program and provide some high level training. And as you know, you can only do so much yourself. You got to surround yourself. As I've seen, you're building out more and more coaches on Better at Beach and on your team. That's where you can really grow and make a bigger impact and really grow your sphere of influence. So man, I appreciate everything. I know you hyped me up, but the feeling is mutual, man. I love everything that I see you guys doing, you and Brandon. I love you guys to death. And I get excited every time I see a new video come out and I see you guys unveiling some new programs. And I love all of it, and, you got ahead of me on the videos and stuff. I know I got ahead of you on the facility side. But I love how we can always talk and share information. I'm working on some of the stuff we're doing video right now is just all in-house and for our own training with our training platform. But eventually,
as long as you record it somewhere, you can use it later. I think people like coaches, trainers, personal trainers, people who build businesses, like just right. Every single thing you do down, you have no idea how valuable it'll be to just open a file and be like, oh, I already built that? Like, all you gotta do is now hand it to somebody, and then they'll just clean it up and make it look pretty. Like, oh,
yeah.
So nice.
That's the key to business. I mean, building systems and processes that, every year now, my whole schedule is pretty much on a cycle. Every year we're just shifting tournaments. Oh, this date, it moved 2 days now. Here's the new tournament for this year. And the programming is, hey, here's last year's flyer. Let me change the dates. Are we making any tweaks? All right, this program's out. And so just so much more efficient, and it just makes your job a lot easier if you already got it all.
Don't throw anything out.
I keep everything.
Put it all in one giant Google file, and then
I still got workout files. My workout logs from 20 years ago. 15 years ago. I keep everything. So that's some wise words right there.
Cool.
Yeah, record it all, track it all.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey man, thank you for staying up late. I know I got dinner waiting here, so I'm gonna get to mine. But I appreciate you, and like I said, thanks for meeting. Thanks for taking your time. I know how busy you are and how much it means to take even an hour, no less 2 hours now, of your time. So I really appreciate that, and for everything that you're doing for kids and doing it the right way, and doing it from the lessons that you learned, and to be able to make the world a better place by injecting goodness into your entire community, like just from the world. If it's not thanking you enough, thank you.
Thanks,
nice
bro.
job, man.
I appreciate it, man. I'm trying, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. And anytime you need something, man, I'm always here for you guys. And like I always said, you guys, I feel like we're cut from the same cloth. You guys truly care about the sport. You're trying to put good information out there. You're trying to educate people in our community, and I feel like you're doing it the right way. So keep it up, man, and keep putting out good info and good content, and keep sharing like you're doing, man. I'm super proud of you guys. Tell everybody out on the West Coast I said what's up, and I'll be out there at the end. I gotta go Chula Vista for some of the national team development stuff the end of July. So if anybody's around, you guys let me know. Hopefully we can catch up.
We'll do. And we'll be close behind you, and I'll be hiring you for some coaching when we build our spot in Chattanooga. So,
oh, there you go.
I'll take a lot of notes from you.
Well, let me know if you need a management team to run the facility, man. You can do all the training.
There will be phone calls within the next few months. You can guarantee that.
Anything I could do to help, man. If it's just some suggestions or ideas, I'm always here for you guys.
Cool. Thanks, Will.
All right, brother.
Hey, have a great night. Good luck in your training, and then we'll see you later this summer.
All right. Sounds good, brother. See you soon.
Later.
Thanks for having me.